All right, creating the Constitution, Section 4 of Chapter 2. We're almost there. Now, let's talk about where we left off. We talked about the Articles of Confederation and their shortcomings. We had a whole chart about their weaknesses and the outcome of those weaknesses, what the consequences were, if you will. Now, we, meaning the founders, made a decision to change. They realized that what they were using was not working, and thus they needed to change what they had. Now, they called a constitutional convention. 12 out of 13 states sent delegates. No Rhode Island on this one. They kind of boycotted they just didn't go. George Washington presided over the meeting. Fantastic. They worked in secret, so the windows were shut. It was sweltering heat in the summer. I mean, it was a tenseful, tension-filled room. Okay, it wasn't a cartoon. It wasn't people happy-go-lucky. It wasn't just people being philosophers back and forth. There was a lot of arguing going on because they wanted to make the best government possible in light of what they were already dealing with. Now, what we do know that occurred stems from Madison's extensive note-taking. James Madison not only wrote most of the Constitution, but he also documented what was happening in the Constitutional Convention meeting. Out of the 116 days that they met, they officially met 89 out of 116 days. I'm sure some of those days were breaks, drafting days, etc. I'm not sure that all 116 were necessary to create, since 89 of them were used fully. Now we see the Virginia plan versus the New Jersey plan. This is what they came up with. They had two sides there, okay? You have the Virginia plan, which is calling for a bicameral, two-chamber legislature, in which the number of representatives in each house, so both chambers, would depend on the population of the state. So both chambers would be based on population. While the New Jersey plan called for a unicameral, meaning one legislature, one chamber, in which every state received one vote. So in the New Jersey plan, there'd be 13 delegates in all, which didn't seem to satisfy the majority of the people who wanted the Virginia plan. But there was a part where they all shared the same idea. They both wanted a strong national government with three branches. The three branches, again, are legislative, executive, and judicial. Now, in order to satisfy both of these, the Virginia and the New Jersey, a great compromise was struck. They provided for a bicameral Congress. First, the House of Representatives. Each state is represented according to its population. Satisfy the Virginia plan. The Senate, on the other hand, each state has 2 senators. Satisfy the New Jersey plan, and both houses of Congress must pass every law. The law must be identical in wording. If it's not, they have to repass it all over again within each chamber until both versions are passed. And if they are passed, they are sent to the president, and we'll get into that entire process a little bit further into the year. Now, the compromise, there was more than just the Great Compromise. There was a couple other ones. Okay? So the Connecticut is also known as the Great Compromise. They're the same thing. But then we have the 3/5, counting slaves within population to determine representation. So they were the North was concerned about the population numbers, and so was the South. And so they came up with this idea that the slaves were going to be counted as 3/5 of one person, both for representation purposes and taxation. The slave owners ended up paying taxes on how many slaves they did in fact own. Now, the Commerce and Slave Trade Compromise, the issue was granting Congress the power to regulate foreign and interstate trade. They gave Congress that power. However, in doing so, Congress was forbidden to tax a state's exports or take any action against the slave trade for 20 years. So there's a 20-year pause on taxing exports and taking action against slave trade. So those were the two things that they had to compromise on in order to give Congress the power to regulate foreign and interstate trade in the future. Now, there were some unresolved issues, and you can already guess what they were. The Constitution did and did not address the issue of slavery. It addressed how the slave population will be counted for, okay, 3/5 compromise. And of course, the convention postponed the decision on the slave trade because of its contentious nature. They really wanted to make this Constitution get passed because they really wanted to make it work. Now, this is the end of Section 4, Chapter 2, but I'll leave you with this interesting fun fact, and you can comment below if you wish to. Bang your head against a wall burns 150 hours or 150 calories per hour. That's right. If you bang your head against a wall for an hour, you'll burn 150 calories. Don't do that though. You might lose some brain cells in the process. Have a good night, guys. Bye.